Hello everyone, welcome to Get My Class. Today we are going to solve this question which says an example of a natural barrier between androecium and gynoecium so as to prevent autogamy or self-pollination. Okay, autogamy or you can say self-pollination is dash. Options are option A cleistogamy, option B geitonogamy, option C xenogamy, option D herkogamy. So let us understand the question. It says an example of natural barrier between androecium and gynoecium so as to prevent autogamy or self-pollination is. So what do you mean by self-pollination? Self-pollination is nothing but the transfer of the pollen grain from the anther of a flower onto the stigma of the same flower. So here the anther and stigma belong to the same flower. Okay, and the pollination is happening in the same flower. So that is what is called as self-pollination. Okay, and it is also called as the scientific term is known as autogamy. So self-pollination is also known as autogamy. Auto means self. Okay, autogamy is nothing but self-pollination. Now they are talking about the natural barrier. So we know that artificially we can avoid self-pollination by removal of the anther, which is called as emasculation. But they are asking about natural barrier. So these natural barriers are called as outbreeding devices. Outbreeding devices. Okay. So when we say outbreeding devices, these are the mechanisms by which the self-fertilization or self-pollination is prevented. Okay. So the mechanisms are like the first one we can say it is pollen stigma incompatibility. Pollen stigma incompatibility. That is nothing but incompatibility, where the stigma will produce certain chemicals which will not allow its own, that is of the pollen grains of the same flower will not germinate. That is what is uh, pollen stigma incompatibility. Now the second natural barrier is known as dichogamy. Dichogamy. So what is dichogamy? Dichogamy, here there is difference in the time period of maturation of male and the female sex organs. That is the androecium and the gynoecium develop or mature at different stages or different timing. Okay. So difference in maturation time. Maturation time. Okay. So the difference in the maturation time between gynoecium and androecium, it will not allow the pollination, between the like pollination or it is the transfer of pollen grains of the same flower onto the stigma of the same flower. So because there is maturation, suppose the anther gets matured first, then it will rupture and release the pollen grain. By then the gynoecium has not yet matured. So then self-pollination is avoided and it is vice versa. So dichogamy is one of the mechanism, dichogamy, whereas the another mechanism is called as herkogamy. Herkogamy. So what is herkogamy? Here the placement of placement of the male and the female reproductive part will be in such a way that there will not be any self-fertilization or self-pollination. So it depends on the placement of male and female reproductive organ. Now, if suppose this is the stigma, lower to it will be the anther, so that the pollen grains will not pollinate its own stigma. Okay, hence that is herkogamy. So let us look at the options. So in the question they are asking an example of natural barrier between androecium and gynoecium so as to prevent autogamy or self-pollination is dash. Option A, cleistogamy. Cleistogamy, no, because cleistogamy is nothing but the closed flowers where self-pollination is compulsory. So that is the only mode of pollination there. Okay, so it is ruled out. Option B says geitonogamy. Geitonogamy is a type of autogamy only, where the pollen grains from one flower of the plant gets transported, or you can say, yeah, gets transported onto the stigma of the another flower of the same plant. That is what is geitonogamy. Okay, so that is ruled out. So here they are talking about self-fertilization or self-pollination only. Now, xenogamy happens between two different plants of the same species. That is, the pollen grains of one flower of one plant gets pollinated onto the stigma of another flower of another plant, but of same species. So here they are not talking about any barrier. They are just telling like how come the pollination occurring between two different plants of same species, and that is also ruled out. Herkogamy, yes, this is a type of a mechanism which is followed naturally by the plants, by certain plants, where the placement of the anther and placement of the anther and the gynecium is different, or it plays in such a way that there is no self pollination. I hope you understood the explanation. So let us finally conclude it. So the answer is option D. So that is the answer. Thank you, everyone.